Chen had repaired thousands of watches in his 28 years as a horologist, but he'd never seen craftsmanship quite like this. The pocket watch lying on his workbench was a masterpiece of late 19th century Swiss engineering. Its gold case dull with age, but its internal mechanisms still precisely calibrated despite decades of wear. "Extraordinary," he murmured, adjusting his magnification loupe. The shop's ancient radiator hissed quietly, fighting against Boston's February chill while snow fell steadily outside his window on Beacon Hill. The watch had arrived that morning in a plain padded envelope, accompanied by a handwritten note requesting repair the stuck, winding mechanism. The return address was a P.O. box in Geneva, the signature illegible. Normally, Michael would have been suspicious of such an anonymous submission, but the watch itself was unquestionably genuine. A Patek Philippe from around 1885, worth well over $100,000 even in its current condition. At 55, Michael had earned a reputation as one of the finest vintage watch restorers in New England. His small shop, tucked between a bookstore and a coffeehouse, was a museum of temporal artifacts. Grandfather clocks from the colonial era, delicate Victorian carriage clocks, even a few early electric timepieces from the 1940s. But his true passion was for the intricate mechanics of fine pocket watches. The bell above his shop door chimed. Michael looked up to see his daughter Grace entering, brushing snow from her dark hair. At 28, she shared his passion for horology, though she channeled it into more modern directions, specializing in high-end contemporary watches at the city's most exclusive jewelry store. "Brought you lunch," she said, holding up a paper bag. "Thought you might forget to eat again." She paused, noting his intense focus. "Something interesting?" Michael gestured her over. "Take a look at this movement. Notice anything unusual?" Grace donned a loupe and examined the watch's internal mechanism. Beautiful craftsmanship, definitely Patek. Wait. She adjusted the magnification. "That's not a standard escapement design." "No, it isn't. I've never seen anything quite like it. The gear train has been modified, but with incredible precision. Someone altered this watch long ago, but they knew exactly what they were doing." "Altered it for what?" Michael shook his head. "That's what I've been trying to figure out. Every modification served a purpose, but this..." He pointed to a tiny additional wheel. "This seems to be part of a secondary mechanism, almost like a combination lock, but integrated into the timekeeping function itself." Grace set down her loupe. "Secret compartment?" "Maybe, but I can't figure out how to access it. The case back is solid, no hidden panels I can find." He turned the watch over in his hands. "Though I haven't cleaned the engraving yet. Might be something there." The back of the watch was covered in ornate scrollwork, the kind of personalization common in expensive timepieces of that era. But years of tarnish had made it nearly illegible. "Want help?" Grace asked, already reaching for the cleaning supplies. They worked together in comfortable silence, carefully removing decades of oxidation from the gold surface. Gradually, letters began to emerge. "In memory of time lost and secrets kept. May this guard both until the hour is right. H to JR, 1886 inch." Below the dedication was a series of numbers, arranged in an unusual pattern. "Looks like a date," Grace said. "But why arranged that way?" Michael was about to respond when his shop phone rang. The caller ID showed an international number. "Chen's watch repair," he answered. "Mr. Chen." The voice was female, with a crisp Swiss accent. "I understand you have received a package from Geneva." Michael glanced at Grace, then put the phone on speaker. "Yes, just this morning. A Patek Philippe pocket watch in need of..." "Do not attempt any repairs," the voice interrupted. "Representatives from our embassy will arrive shortly to retrieve the item. For your own safety, do not examine it further." "I'm sorry, but I'll need some form of..." "Authentication will be provided. But Mr. Chen..." The voice grew harder. "That watch is connected to matters of international security. Speaking of it to anyone would be unwise." The line went dead. Grace stared at the phone, then at the watch. "Dad, what have you gotten yourself into?" "I don't know." Michael carefully picked up the timepiece. "But whatever's hidden in this watch, someone's gone to a lot of trouble to find it." The shop door chimed again. A man in a dark suit stood in the entrance, snow melting on his shoulders. Behind him, Michael could see two more figures waiting in a black SUV. "Mr. Chen?" The man's accent was also Swiss, but his tone was nothing like the phone caller's. "I'm afraid you have something that belongs to us." Michael's fingers tightened slightly on the watch. "May I see some identification?" The man reached into his jacket, but instead of credentials, he produced a small photograph. It showed a much younger Michael, in his early 20s, standing in front of a Swiss watchmaking school in Geneva. Next to him was an elderly instructor, their arms around each other's shoulders. "You studied under Marcus Reichardt," the man said. "He spoke highly of you, even years later." Michael felt his throat tighten. Marcus had been more than an instructor. He'd been a mentor, almost a second father. "You knew him?" "He was my uncle, and he trusted you." The man glanced at Grace. "Your daughter, yes? Marcus mentioned you had a child with the same gift for timepieces." Grace stepped forward. "Who are you?" "Anton Reichardt. And that watch you're holding belonged to my great-grandfather. What's more important is what he hid inside it. Something that certain people have been searching for since World War II. Another vehicle pulled up outside, a police car. Anton tensed. "Those aren't real police," he said quietly. "We need to leave. Now." Michael looked at the watch in his hands, then at Grace, then at the approaching figures in police uniforms that didn't quite fit right. "Dad," Grace said urgently at the back door. Michael nodded, quickly wrapping the watch in a soft cloth and pocketing it. "Through the repair workshop. There's an alley exit." As they hurried toward the back of the shop, Michael heard the front door chime again. A voice called out, "Boston Police." Everyone freeze. But they were already moving through the maze of workbenches and partially repaired clocks. Anton pulled out a phone, speaking rapid German, as they reached the back door. The alley behind the shop was narrow, bordered by brick walls and fire escapes. Snow was falling harder now, muffling their footsteps as they turned toward the smaller side street. "Car waiting 2 blocks south," Anton said. "Black Mercedes. Driver knows where to go." A shout from behind them. One of the fake police had spotted them. Anton pushed Michael and Grace ahead. "Go. I'll delay them." Michael ran, one hand on the watch in his pocket, the other gripping Grace's arm. Behind them came the sound of a scuffle, then a muffled grunt. They emerged onto the side street, just as another black SUV screeched around the corner. Grace pulled her father toward a narrow space between buildings. "This way. It connects to the next block." The passage was tight, barely wide enough for them to move single file. Michael could hear engines revving, car doors slamming, voices calling out in German and what sounded like Russian. "Dad," Grace whispered as they emerged on the next street. "What's in that watch?" Michael shook his head, breathing hard. "I don't know, but Marcus once told me something about his family's role in hiding Jewish assets during the war. Bank accounts, property deeds, evidence of ownership. In a watch. Where better to hide something you want found at exactly the right time." They spotted the Mercedes idling exactly where Anton had said it would be. The driver's window lowered slightly, revealing a woman with short gray hair. "Get in," she said in accented English. Quickly, Michael hesitated only a moment before opening the rear door. Whatever was hidden in that watch, whatever secrets it contained, Marcus Reichardt's family had trusted him with it, and he wouldn't let them down. As the Mercedes pulled away from the curb, Michael looked back to see Anton running toward them, his suit torn but otherwise unharmed. Behind him, the fake police were picking themselves up from what appeared to have been a very brief but effective confrontation. The watch in Michael's pocket seemed to tick more loudly now, marking time not just in hours and minutes, but in secrets finally ready to emerge after decades of silence. The Mercedes wound through Boston's narrow streets, taking an erratic route to shake any potential followers. Michael sat in the back with Grace, the watch a heavy presence in his pocket, while Anton spoke quietly in German with the gray-haired driver. "We're heading to a safe house," Anton finally said, switching to English. "Eva here is with Swiss intelligence. The watch? It's more important than we initially thought." "Who were those men?" Grace asked. "The fake police?" "Former Russian FSB, now private contractors. They work for a consortium of European banks trying to locate and seize Holocaust-era assets. Anton turned in his seat to face them. What do you know about Operation Safe Haven? Michael frowned. It was a post-war program to track Nazi gold and stolen property, wasn't it? Part of it, yes. But there was another aspect, helping Jewish families hide legitimate assets from seizure. Swiss banks weren't always cooperative during that period. Some account records were altered or destroyed. Certain bankers, however, found creative ways to preserve the true ownership records. Eva navigated onto Starro Drive, heading west out of the city. Your mentor, Marcus Reichart, his father Jacob was one of those bankers. He worked with the resistance to create a backup system, a way to prove rightful ownership when it was safe to do so. In timepieces, Michael said slowly, understanding dawning. High-end watches that families would naturally keep. Exactly. Anton nodded. Each watch contained encoded information about specific accounts. The modifications to the movements weren't just clever engineering. They were mechanical computers, designed to reveal their secrets only when the correct sequence was entered. Grace leaned forward. The numbers on the back of the watch, they're not just a date, are they? No, they're part of the key. But we need your father's expertise to understand how to enter it properly. One wrong move could destroy the hidden compartment's contents. The safe house turned out to be a renovated colonial in Newton, set back from the road behind old oak trees. As they pulled into the garage, Michael noticed security cameras disguised as landscape lighting. Inside, the house was sparsely furnished, but equipped with modern communications equipment. Maps covered one wall, showing Switzerland and southern Germany with various locations marked in red. 7 watches. Eva explained, pointing to the markers, each containing records for different family groups. 6 have been recovered over the years. Their information used to restore billions in assets to Holocaust survivors and their descendants. This is the last one, Anton added, and potentially the most significant. The families of concerns, their assets weren't just money. They included evidence of art provenance, property deeds, and documents that could prove collaboration by certain prestigious institutions. Which is why people are still trying to suppress this information decades later, Michael concluded. Eva nodded grimly. Precisely. Now, let's see what we're dealing with. Michael carefully unwrapped the watch, placing it under a digital microscope connected to a large monitor. The internal modifications were even more impressive at this magnification. Look at this. He pointed to a tiny lever concealed within the winding mechanism. It's not just for time setting. Each position must trigger different elements of the hidden compartment. But how do we know the correct sequence? Grace asked. Michael was studying the engraving again. H to JR, 1886. Anton, the initials JR. Jacob Reichart, my great-grandfather. And H was Abraham Herzfeld, a prominent Jewish banker. They worked together before the war. Grace had been making notes on a tablet. The numbers below the dedication, if we treat them as coordinates rather than a date, they point to a location in Zurich. Eva confirmed. A building that housed the original Herzfeld Bank. A sudden noise from outside made them all freeze. Eva moved to a window, peering through the blinds. We've got company, she said tersely. 3 vehicles, professional team by the look of it. Anton was already moving, grabbing equipment. How did they find us so quickly? The watch, Michael realized. Could it be broadcasting somehow? These modifications we don't understand. Grace was examining the microscope feed. Dad, look at this component. It's not original. It's much newer. Maybe 1940s technology. A tracking device, Eva concluded. Crude by today's standards, but still functioning. They must have been monitoring it for years, waiting for it to surface. Anton handed Michael a small case. We need to move. There's a tunnel under this house, a remnant from Prohibition days. It leads to a garage 2 blocks away. But the watch, Michael started. Take it with you. Eva ordered. You're the only one who can safely decode it. Anton and I will delay them. Grace was already gathering their coats. Dad, we need to go. Now. As if to emphasize her words, There was a sharp crack from outside, a window breaking somewhere in the house. Michael carefully wrapped the watch again, tried to remember everything he'd observed about its mechanism. Whatever was hidden inside, it had been important enough for people to protect and pursue for over 70 years. Eva led them to a concealed door and pantry. The tunnel is narrow but well-maintained. Go straight. Ignore any side passages. The exit will be locked. This key opens it. She pressed a key into Grace's hand. The garage has a car waiting, keys in the visor. Head north toward New Hampshire. We'll contact you when it's safe. Michael wanted to protest. This was espionage, not watch repair, but the sound of footsteps above them made the decision urgent. Marcus trusted you, Anton said quickly. He knew someday this watch would surface, and you'd be the one to unlock its secrets. Don't let him down. The tunnel was exactly as Eve had described. Narrow, damp, but structurally sound. Grace led the way with a small flashlight while Michael followed, one hand keeping contact with the rough stone wall. They had gone perhaps 50 yards when the first explosion rocked the tunnel. Dust and small debris rained down from the ceiling. Keep moving, Grace urged. Another explosion, closer this time. Then the sound of gunfire, muffled by earth and stone. They reached the exit, a steel door set into the tunnel wall. Grace's hand shook slightly as she fitted the key into the lock. The garage beyond was small and ordinary-looking, containing a single dark blue Volvo. As promised, the keys were in the visor. Grace took the driver's seat, while Michael carefully placed the watch in the glove compartment. As they pulled out onto the quiet suburban street, more explosions echoed in the distance. Head for the interstate, Michael said. We need to. Dad, look. A black SUV was turning onto their street. In the passenger seat, Michael glimpsed one of the fake police officers from earlier. Grace accelerated smoothly, taking the next corner with professional precision. I'm guessing those defensive driving lessons you made me take are about to pay off. I was thinking more about snow and ice, Michael admitted, not international espionage. The SUV was gaining on them. Grace wove through residential streets, tried to find a route to the highway, while avoiding their pursuers. The watch, she said suddenly. Dad, the numbers in the engraving. What if they're not just coordinates? What if they're time? Michael pulled the watch from the glove compartment, studying the sequence again. You're right. Look at how they're grouped. If we treat this as a time signature. He began manipulating the winding mechanism, following the pattern suggested by the numbers. There was a faint click from inside the case. Grace, I think. A sharp impact from behind cut him off. The SUV had caught up, nudging their rear bumper. Grace fought to maintain control as they skidded on the winter streets. Can you open it? She asked through gritted teeth. Michael's fingers moved with practiced precision, despite the car's violent movement. Almost there's a sequence to it. Another impact, harder this time. Grace yanked the wheel, sending them down a narrow side street. The SUV was too wide to follow. Ha! She exclaimed. Let's see them. She broke off as two more vehicles appeared ahead of them, blocking the street. Dad! Working on it. The watch's mechanism was responding to his adjustments. He could feel internal components shifting, realigning. Grace slammed on the brakes, spinning the wheel hard. The Volvo rotated 180 degrees, facing back the way they come. Hold on. She gunned the engine, shooting through a narrow gap between the approaching vehicles. Side mirrors scraped with a horrific sound, but they were through. And in Michael's hands, with a final precise click, the watch's secret compartment opened at last. Inside the watch's hidden compartment was a tightly folded piece of microfilm, preserved perfectly in its airtight chamber. But before Michael could examine it further, Grace took a hard turn onto Commonwealth Avenue. We need somewhere safe to examine this, Michael said, carefully securing the film and watch. I have an idea. Grace navigated through a series of turns. Remember Tommy Chong, your friend from watchmaking school? He works at the Museum of Fine Arts now. Conservation Department. They have equipment for examining fragile historical documents. Michael checked their mirrors. Two vehicles were still pursuing, but falling behind as Grace's superior knowledge of Boston streets gave them an advantage. Can we trust him? He specializes in preserving timepieces from the Holocaust Memorial Collection. If anyone understands the importance of this, he will. The museum's conservation lab was housed in a secure basement area, accessed through a loading dock. Tommy met them at the service entrance, his usually cheerful face serious as Grace quickly explained the situation. "You'll need a digital microscanner for microfilm that old," he said, leading them through climate-controlled rooms. "And I'm turning off the security cameras." Plausible deniability. The lab was state-of-the-art, designed for handling priceless artifacts. Tommy powered up a specialized scanner, while Michael carefully extracted the microfilm. "This equipment can digitize the content without damaging the original," Tommy explained. "But it'll take about 20 minutes for a full scan." Grace stood watch at the door, while the scanner hummed softly. Michael examined the watch's mechanism more closely, marveling at its ingenuity. The craftsmanship involved, they built this to last generations, knowing someday it would be needed. Tommy nodded. "We have several timepieces in our collection that survived the camps. Sometimes they were the only proof of a family's former life, their status. Time itself became a form of resistance." The scanner chimed. Tommy pulled up the digitized images on a large monitor. "My God," Michael whispered. The microfilm contained page after page of bank records, property deeds, and most significantly, a detailed catalog of artworks, complete with photographs and provenance documentation. "These paintings," Tommy said, scrolling through the images. "Some of them are still listed as ownership disputed in major museums. This proves they were stolen." Grace joined them at the monitor. "Look at these account numbers. The amounts. Billions in today's money," Michael confirmed. "All traceable to specific families." Tommy was studying the art catalog intently. "This isn't just about money. These records prove systematic theft and collaboration. Major institutions, prestigious families. Their reputations are built on covering this up." A soft ping from Grace's phone interrupted them. A message from Anton. "Safe. Coming to you. Don't trust anyone else." Almost simultaneously, they heard voices in the corridor outside, multiple people approaching. Tommy quickly saved the scans to an encrypted drive. Back exit through the conservation storage. "I'll delay them." Grace grabbed the drive while Michael pocketed the watch, an original microfilm. They slipped into a room filled with crated artifacts just as the lab door opened. "Conservation department, right?" An accented voice. "We're looking for a stolen watch. Just need to check your records." Tommy's response was too muffled to hear. Michael and Grace moved carefully between crates, heading for the emergency exit Tommy had indicated. They emerged into a service tunnel, connecting different parts of the museum complex. Grace checked her phone's map. "This way to the parking garage. We just need to..." "Stop right there." Two men in dark suits blocked their path. Behind them, more footsteps approached. "The watch, please, Mr. Chen." The speaker was elderly, his accent distinctly Swiss German. "And the microfilm. No one needs to be hurt." Michael held the watch tightly. "This belongs to the families. Their children, their grandchildren. Those families are gone," the man said dismissively, "but their wealth remains. Better it stay with those who can appreciate it. Gone." Grace's voice was sharp. "Like my grandmother's family in Shanghai, murdered by people who thought they could steal not just possessions, but history itself." The old man's face hardened. "History is written by those who survive, my dear. Now!" A sudden commotion behind them. Anton appeared, along with Eva and several armed individuals wearing Swiss Federal Police insignia. "History is written by those who speak truth," Anton said. "Drop your weapons." A brief but intense standoff followed. The old man's companions slowly lowered their guns. "Werner Rothschild," Eva said, approaching the elderly man. "The Swiss Banking Commission has some questions about your family's wartime activities." "You can't prove anything," Rothschild spat. Michael held up the watch. "Actually, your father proved it himself when he documented the thefts in his own handwriting, then had Jacob Reichardt hide the evidence in this watch. Insurance, perhaps? Or guilt?" Rothschild's face went pale. "That's impossible. Those records were destroyed. Not destroyed, Anton said. Protected by people who believed that someday the truth would matter again. Later, in the museum's quiet cafeteria, Michael, Grace, and Tommy sat with Anton and Eva, watching news reports begin to break worldwide. The digitized records had been transmitted to multiple international authorities and Holocaust research centers. 14 major museums have already announced reviews of their collections, Eva reported. And the Swiss Banking Association is establishing a new commission for restitution. What about the other watches? Grace asked. Being re-examined, Anton said. Now that we know exactly how they were modified, we may find more hidden compartments, more evidence. Tommy pulled up an image on his tablet. A special exhibition being planned by the museum's Holocaust Memorial Collection. We'd like to display the watch, if you're willing. People should know this story. Michael nodded slowly. Marcus would have wanted that. He always said timepieces weren't just about measuring hours and minutes. They measure humanity itself. What we choose to remember, what we refuse to forget. Grace touched the watch gently. And sometimes they keep secrets until exactly the right moment to reveal them. In the following months, the ripples from their discovery spread far and wide. Paintings were returned to descendants of their rightful owners. Bank accounts were restored. More importantly, long-buried truths were finally acknowledged. Michael went back to his shop on Beacon Hill, repairing watches and clocks as he always had. But now there was a special display case near the window. In it, a masterpiece of 19th century craftsmanship told a story not just of time, but of justice long delayed and finally served. And sometimes when the light hit it just right, the old Patek Philippe seemed to tick with a special resonance. The sound of history being set right one precious moment at a time. Grace continued her work with modern timepieces, but with a deeper appreciation for their meaning. She and Tommy collaborated on more museum exhibitions, telling the stories of watches that had survived war and genocide, carrying their witnesses' memories forward. Anton and Eva returned to Switzerland, but they stayed in touch. More watches were discovered, more secrets revealed. The consortium that had tried to suppress the truth faced investigations and indictments. 1 year later, Michael received a package from Geneva. Inside was a letter from Marcus Reichardt's personal effects, dated shortly before his death. My dear student, if you are reading this, then the watch has finally found its way to you, and you have proven worthy of its trust. Time is the great revealer of truth, and sometimes it needs careful hands to help it along its way. You once asked me why I chose to teach watchmaking instead of banking, like my father. Now you know, some inheritances are not about money, but about responsibility, about keeping faith with those who entrusted us with their stories. The watch you unveiled was the last of its kind, but not the last of its secrets. There will always be truth waiting to be discovered, justice waiting to be served. Keep your eyes sharp and your hands steady, for there are more stories written in springs and gears, waiting for the right moment to emerge. With gratitude and pride, Marcus. Michael carefully folded the letter and placed it in the display case next to the watch. Outside his shop window, Boston seasons turned. Summer tourists pointing at the historic timepieces, autumn leaves swirling past, winter snow frosting the glass. And inside, the old pocket watch kept perfect time. Its hidden compartment empty now, but its story finally fully told. Its steady tick matched the rhythm of justice restored, of history remembered, of secrets brought into the light of day. For some timepieces do more than mark the hours. They wait, patiently measuring the years until a moment comes for truth to be revealed. And in the end, as Michael had learned, no secret can stay hidden forever when its time has finally come. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.